Hello, everyone. Welcome to our once monthly Other Talk, which we do every third Sunday morning of each and every month, God willing. I am one of your two hosts. Well, actually, I am your host. And Mushtaq, how
Who
do you
are
fit
you?
into this?
What is your name, oh mysterious host?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I am Noor Kyle. You guys can call me Noor.
And I am Mushtaq Ali, her faithful sidekick.
Yeah. So, many of you are joining us live today, but if you're watching on the replay, either way, we are so happy to have you here. You're probably joining us now at what for us is 10:30 a.m. That is our time for our once monthly other talk, but our usual talk, which we do weekly, happens at 6:30 p.m. every Sunday evening.
And that's going to be an exciting one tonight.
Yes,
You're
so
going to be there.
the implication there is yes, we do two talks every third Sunday, and that means two different topics. It's a lot of work for us, but it is a labor of love, and we hope that you will enjoy it and you can participate once or twice this day. If you want to be, super enthusiastic, we welcome that, as long as you have the energy. So, uh, YouTube spiel, of course. The best way to support us, at least as far as YouTube is concerned, is to do that whole like, commenting, and subscribing thing. Of course, we are, a channel not necessarily like any other, but to share our message, which is to encourage people to wake up. We have to be able to reach people, and that means that you can help us out by sharing our content, liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and keeping up with whatever we're up to, and leaving comments so that you can engage with us and with other people in the community who often have really lovely things to say. And otherwise, you can join our email list. You can join our Facebook page and Facebook group. And if you so desire, you can donate as well. We have our PayPal link below. Have I left anything out, Mushtaq?
Um,
Oh, yes. We also do one-on-ones or two-on-ones from time to time where we do one-on-one Zoom sessions where we offer mentorship and support and that kind of thing.
Consultation. We are consulting
Consultations.
dervishes.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, Mushtaq. So if you want to connect with us on that level, you can message us on Facebook or via email. And we will send you our calendar and PayPal links and get you set up with that. That is how we make our living. That is how we support what we do and offer mutual benefit to our community. So, with no further ado, we can get to the lovely topic at hand this morning, which is lucid waking. And this is part of our ongoing discussion about trance states and the awake state that we are striving to spend more time in. So where do we begin, Mushtaq?
Well, think of it like this. Probably many of you have had lucid dreams. So we know what a lucid dream is. You're walking through the jungle and there's tigers staring at you, or you're in a supermarket somewhere, and all of a sudden you go, holy crap, this is a dream. And then you can do all sorts of amazing things. You can fly, you're limited only by your imagination at that point. And as long as you can hold that lucidity, you're in control of the dream. I want you to imagine for a moment that what passes for the waking state is actually another kind of dream. I mean, yes, it's a dream in reality, and it's very solid, and you can bump into things and bruise yourself and such like, but you can do that in the dream as well. But imagine for a second that we all spend our time in waking trances, moving through the world as stimulus response meat machines. It's very unpleasant to imagine that because we like to think that we have agency and free will and all of this kind of stuff. And those are most often comforting lies that we tell to ourselves. But there are ways of having a lucid waking experience as well as a lucid dreaming experience. And probably if you're here or you're watching this video, you've had something like this. And that's that moment when you are walking down the street or at your grocery store or driving your car, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I'm awake. Think of the quality of a lucid dream. When you become aware that you're in the dream time, what makes that happen is your own sense of self. Because most of the time when we're dreaming, our eye is somewhat somnambulistic, right? You're just moving along. Things don't have to make sense. The dream is what it is. And then all
Happens
of a
to
sudden,
you rather than with you.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you realize, I am here. I am awake. And that I am is the secret. I don't want to sound new agey because the new agey people have taken this I am thing and run with it and turned it into a bunch of weirdness. And it's not that. There's nothing magical about it. It's just the sense of presence. And Sufis like to talk about states of presence and absence. And we can say that most of the time we spend our dream world and our waking world in a state of absence. Our attention is not here. Our intention is not here. We have no intention. We're moving through various programmed experiences. But there comes these moments, especially if you've been practicing, where you wake up in the waking world. How do you know this is happening? It's easy. First of all, it's the same experience of, oh my God, I'm awake. Here is this world, and I'm awake in it. The chatter in your head quiets. You are present in that moment. And it's as if, to me at least, it's as if somebody turns the colors up. The world seems brighter, not in the sense of more light, but just brighter in perception. And usually when this happens, at first, it happens for a few moments, and then you get distracted and start thinking about what shoes you should wear to the party tonight. Is this all making sense? Is everybody here, anybody here not had an experience of a lucid dream?
Uh, I haven't.
Okay.
Not in the dream state. No, no.
Not in the dream state, but in the waking state.
But in the waking state.
Okay. That's actually better.
I want to do it in a dream state too.
All you have to do is put in the practice.
Nisa says, oh my gosh, my chat wasn't coming up. Okay. I haven't either, as far as I can remember, at least not in the dream state.
Yeah. But in the waking state, you've had this experience.
Yeah, I think being able to, to put a name to it, put words to it, kind of helps us realize that many of us have had this
Yeah,
waking
that
lucidity.
moment of lucidity in the waking state, which is more important. We may do a talk at some point on how to have lucid dreams, but it's not as interesting as lucid waking. So, when this happens, what does it mean? And the answer is not much, but it means that you have an opportunity to do work. For those few moments that you are in that state, you can use them. And by using them, you can extend them. And that's where the second precept that we work with, Nazar Barqanam, watch your step. Be aware of where you're going. That is what this precept is about, is when you are awake, watch your step. Watch what you're doing. Be aware of how you are traveling. So, let's assume for a moment that you have woken up in the waking world. You have moved into a state of lucidity, a state of awakeness. You are actually present. You are not focused on the cartoons that are playing behind your mind. What do you do? Firstly, you probably want to extend that state, yes? And we're going to talk about how do you extend the state and what do you do as long as you can stay in the waking state that is of benefit to you. So, who knows what I'm going to tell you the first thing you do is? Anybody guess? Show of hands?
What do
Not
you
you,
think,
Joey.
Nancy? There you are.
Pay attention to your breath.
Yes, absolutely. The first thing you do is breathe consciously. Take your awareness, take that lucid waking state, and put part of it on your breath. You don't have to do any kind of fancy breathing patterns. Just put it on your breath and breathe naturally for you. Helps if you just breathe through your nose, but sometimes that's not possible. So the reason we do this is because it anchors the awake state in the body. And that is going to help us. The second thing you do, once you have anchored the awake state with your breath, is you set your intention. And that can be a lot of different things. Usually for me, it is I intend to perceive the world as it is for as long as I can. Does that make sense? So imagine for a moment that you're actually awake right now, awake in the wake state. Put your attention on your breath. And set an intention to be present for as long as you can and take in the real world. Gurdjieff calls this taking impressions. It's fun because that which you experience in a waking state stays with you more deeply than sleeping memories. How are we doing so far? You understand the process of this?
Any questions so far? Okay, I think we're on a roll.
Ed has a question.
Ed is clapping.
Oh, is that clapping? Sorry. Clear as mud, but it covers the ground.
All right, so we just talked about memories being more recollectable when they've been retained through this waking lucidity.
Yeah, the impressions strike you more deeply.
But Usama, did you have a question or thought you might like to share?
Yes, but I didn't want to interrupt Mushtaq's flow.
Oh, interrupted me, man. It gives me a break from talking.
So when I tried doing this the first time, I guess 35 or more years ago, having read In Search of the Miraculous, I was like used to try and try desperately to self-remember, not knowing what exactly that means. In the course of the years, as this kind of presence started kind of manifesting itself, in the meantime, I realized that the second thing, like, anchoring it with the breath, fine. But your point about formulating an intention, I guess that's where I can't, there's something which I can't really answer for myself, because this presence is there, and it's what I become aware of. For example, it's just speaking for myself, I'm sure this is not a universal symptom, is all the tension that I have. All the tensions in my body, all the psychological tensions, all the confusion, all the information which I have been imbibing from all sorts of things, and having at the same time this intensified sense of being there, together with therefore being all the more aware of all my tensions. It's even kind of something which is, well, not overwhelming, but what's the word? Too much.
Yeah.
So I kind of snap out of it, I guess, into some kind of a numb comfort zone. So I guess this, if I would kind of like just provisionally call it waking up to some small degree, this kind of reminds me of what Gurdjieff said, which I don't quote as some kind of Bible. I just read it so long ago, it's kind of stuck in me. That when one wakes up, it's also not a bad thing to have something meaningful to wake up to. So it's the, so I guess I don't really have any more clearly defined question, I'm afraid. I hope
Oh.
that makes
That's
some
okay, because this is the perfect segue into part 3 of this.
And in passing, Ian says, I've been having a very similar experience for weeks now.
Yeah.
So,
So
relatable.
when you have the intention to be awake, it's not even stay awake, it's be awake. You will experience things like the tension that you described, because that tension is part of our habitual nature. That tension is part of what we call nafs al-amara, the commanding self. And as it is held, it signals your essence to be focused on it, focused on what the tension is. Like, we have, we know from the 60s, when really intensive body work was developed, where things like Rolfing, we take that for an example, or Feldenkrais work. You take somebody and you push on a part of their body, and sometimes it brings up these vivid memories. Now think about that, because if you have chronic tension there, that area is constantly being stimulated, and those memories exist as, we don't have an English word for it that I know of, but the Sanskrit word is samskara. Samskara can be translated as subliminal memory traces. And so when you're awake, one of the first things you will notice is the tensions that are holding your personality together in your body. So my recommendation, and what I do, is move your body.
Mhm.
Stay present, stay in your breath, and move your body in such a way that you can experience those tensions. Okay, Osama, it looked like you had put your mic on to ask a
No,
question.
sorry. No, just
Okay.
no,
Okay,
go on.
then Ed, what do you say?
I don't experience any in that awakened state. Every time that I've had that state, there is a sense of expansion, not contraction.
Well,
So
yes.
I don't experience any tension at all. In fact, the noise has dropped. I'm just there. There's a light just popped on, but there's no experience of tension at all.
Okay. Then count yourself lucky.
Hey.
I mean, that's great. Do you experience tension when you're not in that state?
That's when I will experience the tension, when I'm not in that state.
Uh,
So when I'm
let
in
me
that state,
let me
it's a
suggest that that tension may be there whether you are awake or not, but you may not be tuned into it. I don't know, because I can't be inside your head. Doesn't matter, man. Does not matter if you are experiencing openness and relaxation. You're beyond this point in the lesson, so that's cool. We have a
So,
bunch of questions coming in.
yes, Lawrence and then Ian.
You need to turn your mic on, Lawrence.
There you
Can
go.
you can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I appreciate Ed mentioning that he doesn't run into the anxiety or the physical tension I experienced in his anxiety. I can remember that the more recently, I think I've been focusing on trying to locate that intersection of self and divinity. And when one of the feelings that I have is just a tremendous sense of connectedness. Everything falls away. There's a feeling like I'm a sock that's being turned inside out.
Hmm.
Like it's been it's the same thing, but it's from a totally different perspective. And I guess I've fallen into the first thing I do rather than breathing was try and inspect my feelings and what I thought about it, which of course runs contrary, I guess, to the, but you know, some of the first things that came up, which then started creating knots, is that I felt like I could really do anything. Not like Superman, not that kind of self-inflated, but that anything I did from where I was sitting at that point would be fine. And I started, it was when I tried to communicate that I started getting twisted with it because it comes out sounding, yeah, something else.
Yeah, it's hard to put that inner experience, a felt thing, into words. Like you have to objectify it by putting it into words, and that's where things get kind of messy and yucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience, Lawrence. Yeah.
Ian, talk to us.
Yeah, I was just going to comment because Ed said he didn't sort of have the tension experience. Up until several weeks ago, I didn't used to have the tension thing either. But then it sort of suddenly clicked in, and the tension is all centered around my head. But one interesting thing, I think it was about a week ago, I finally managed to put a name to what it is. It seems like something that's just been there under the surface for a very long time. And the name I ended up putting to it was Unrealized Hopes, which I found rather strange, but it seems to be consistent with whatever's driving this. One good thing though, a couple of times in the last week, including actually late last night, by sort of sticking with the feeling, a couple of times I have been able to manage to kind of get through it. And last night in particular, I had a very nice experience when I was able to stick with it and kind of go through it. And that's very new, so I don't really know how to say much more about it. But there's definitely been times when it seemed kind of almost like hopeless. But by sticking with it, there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
I see other people nodding. They've had similar experiences to you, Ian. Thank you for sharing. All right, so where were we, Mushtaq? You were talking
We
about
are at the next step.
Yeah, the segue into step 3.
Into
I believe.
move consciously.
Yeah, that's right.
So here you are, you're going, oh my God, I'm awake. I'm awake, and this reality is as much of a dream as my other reality, my sleep state reality. I center myself in my breath, and then I create the intention to stay awake. And then I move. It can be as simple as walking while awake, staying awake while your body moves. And you'll get all of these signals sometimes from areas of tension that you can then begin to work out. There are better ways than just walking. There are the dervish exercises, right? Y'all know about that, you know, about the Gurdjieff dances, all of this stuff. These are all designed to help you anchor your consciousness in your body and to release these tensions so that your body will be a vessel for the energy that's coming in. Because when you're in the awake state, there is a higher degree of energy moving through you, energy for lack of a better word, and in its most literal sense, energy is the ability to do work. Right? Nothing woo-woo, no strange chi, no knocking people down without touching them, none of that shit. It's the ability to do work. And the first work you do is to maintain the awake state. The second work you do is to remove the tensions in the body that clog the energy from moving through you. Nancy mentioned that this was called an Ingram. We don't use that word because the Scientologists co-opted it and turned it into something weird. But it's a memory trace.
Yeah,
So,
thank you for catching that.
yeah.
I wasn't familiar with that term. It
Yeah.
didn't stick in my
Yeah,
brain
it's a
to mention
term
it.
from psychology from quite a while back that Hubbard just sort of co-opted.
Like so many other things.
Like, yeah, it's disappointing because relatively good and useful things get co-opted by terrible people, and then you don't want to use them anymore. So you have to come up with other ways. So we use samskara. It also sounds cooler. Engram samskara. Yeah. So moving allows you to anchor the energy in your body. And the highest form of this is certain exercises. At the end of this video, we will tell you how you can learn some of these exercises in the most fun way possible. But for right now, you have that. Notice you're awake. Anchor your awake state in your breath. Set your intention and move, even if you are just moving your fingers in different patterns. Cherie isn't here this morning because it's like god-awful o'clock in Australia, but we'll dig out the link to it again. She has this brilliant finger exercise that I recommend everybody learn and do because it builds better patterns in your brain.
We have
So
a video of it somewhere, or she does on her
she
channel.
does, yeah.
That we can put in the description or something.
So once you have moved, then be still. And being still is just a different kind of movement. So I'm sitting here, I'm in my breath, I'm perceiving my intention, and I'm feeling my body, which I've just woken up by doing whatever. I notice where there is tension in my body. So if it's in my neck, I let that go. And then I do a particular exercise. And that is, I first rub my head like this, get a feel for it. And then I relax my face. I start with my forehead. I perceive any tension and I let it go. Below here, along the jaws, then along the scalp and down the back of the neck. And I keep doing that relaxation until my face feels completely at rest, while staying present, staying in my breath. There is no moment when I forget my breath. I will tell you, in no uncertain terms, that doing this is better than Botox, just for the health of your face. I mean, I'm almost 71. Not particularly wrinkled up, no crow's feet, no heavy lines across here, no sagginess. And that comes from doing this exercise since my 20s. So that's the next step. And we have a question here that I do not understand. Is it the mantra that they do in Islam? Is what the mantra that they do in Islam? Instead of using misbaha.
You mentioned earlier that someone used like finger exercise
Yes.
instead of walking. I remember they do something like that in Islam, where they
Oh,
use
yeah.
mantras to.
That's when you don't have a
yes.
tasbih. You learn to count out on your fingers. That could be this because it's useful. I mean, there's a whole pattern that you do using the joints of your fingers so that you can get to 33 and 66 and 99. But it's slightly different. The finger exercise that we do is specifically to create new pathways of movement.
And neural connections
Yeah.
through that process and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's it serves a specific purpose. But good question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a very good question. And we will come back to it.
Thank
And it's
you,
nice to see your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Yay. Sama says, I still have a question about intention.
Yes.
Would you like to?
Yeah. I hope I'm not boring everyone, and it helps someone else.
You are not
Also,
boring us, and this is how we do this. This is not us front loading information. We discuss, we talk about, we find out cool things from each other. So you're right on track.
okay. So I don't know whether this is some kind of unintentional fun of fate that I just noticed in tension and tension. I was talking of tension, whether there's a T and an S, but it's still like intention. So being present, being aware, self-aware, anchoring the awareness in my breath, I now come to my intention. And I must say, the only intention I can have with this tension is the wish to be relieved of this tension. So that's, I mean, just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
That's the first intention. Because, so I guess I am hoping to attain to a greater intention or a more purposeful intention, or to simply move forward.
So
Out tension.
the best intention is in the present. So I can intend to do something in the future, and that's valid. But you have your tension. There's going to be a lot of pun words here. You have your tension in the present. Your tension is not in the future. So your intention needs to be something along the lines of, if it was me, it would be, my intention is to be awake and sit with the awareness of this tension without identifying with it. To allow this tension to be presented to my consciousness without identification.
Yeah.
I don't say I am tense. I say I am perceiving tension. Doing away with the is of identity. That will allow us to experience what is there without comment, and inshallah, if God wills, let it go. Takes a minute. Is that at all useful, or am I just like blathering?
Not at all, Mushtaq. That's right on spot. I mean, I also formulated my question kind of wishy-washy, but I think you are understanding what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I've been there, man.
Because, if like intellectually, now this does not have to do with presence and self-awareness, but just intellectually, if I know my intention, I tend to think that is already a very advanced state of being, to be aware of my true intention. The only thing I can be aware, to be honest, in a state of self-awareness is my intention. So what you said does make
Good.
sense, is very helpful.
When you are awake, there are three things going on. You have your attention. First of all, attention. Second, you have your intention. And third, you have your presence. These three things are the three universal forces represented within ourselves. Attention is the affirming force in your own being. Intention is the denying force, interestingly enough, and presence is the reconciling force. That's how this works. And so when all three of these are happening simultaneously, it creates an energy that cannot be beat. Does that make sense? Good. Somebody else had a question, had a hand up, and then it's disappeared. Have we inadvertently answered your question? Doesn't matter. Munib, talk to us.
So what came up for me was about this. Like for me, there was a mental notion of intention, which was kind of impeding my presence.
Mm.
So what I had to do was not think of it mentally, but to experience it more on a being level. Yeah.
Okay.
That, yeah. Same goes with breath, because like when I get those glimpses, if I try to see, okay, I have to breathe, I have to put focus on my breath, it kind of takes me away from the moment. So I was just thinking how I can not think of it mentally and do that more from a different part, like
Yeah,
do
don't
that.
think about your breath. Feel your breath. Can you feel yourself breathing now?
Yeah,
Can you feel yourself breathing without commenting on it?
yeah,
Like that.
yeah. Yeah, it always comes in the way, the thinking. Yeah.
Yep.
And just the mental idol, I think the visual idol of the actual thing. Yeah, if I can put it in the way.
Yeah.
Some people might find it hard to not have ongoing commentary about your breath. So part of the practice then is to allow it to pass by. You know, it's there perhaps, but you don't have to hone in with your attention on the commentary that's taking place. And if you're able to continue to be present with the breath, it's likely that the commentary will quiet itself over time.
Yeah, sometimes the commentary is just, am I paying attention to my breath?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep.
And the answer is, if you're asking yourself that, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But there's no judgment that needs to be placed on that. There's a reason that this is a practice. It's an ongoing practice. And there will be times where it's easier to let that commentary pass like clouds in the sky, and then other times where it just seems to stick around and create a cloudy day in your brain. But you just keep returning to the practice.
So here we have a sequence. You discover that you're awake for that moment. You attend to your breath. Breathe consciously. That means awareness on breath. You set your intention in this moment for what you're doing. You allow your body to move. Then you become still. Unless you need to be out doing something. If you are awake and you're on the way to do some grocery shopping, keep moving. Let the stillness be inside. Enjoy watching the dream happen around you while you're awake. This is part of the fun of this. It can be a little disconcerting when you realize that you are walking around through a crowd of somnambulistic people. You all know that word, right? Somnambulistic. It means sleepwalkers. What's really fun is if you are in this awake state, you will notice if somebody else is awake. Doesn't happen all that often, but sometimes it does. And you kind of go, whoa. And you'll often get the same response back. And nothing else has to happen in an interaction like that. And then you're going to fall back asleep. Allow yourself to do that without struggle. Because the brain gets tired. This is to operate in the awake state is like exercising, right? I grab some weights, I start doing bicep curls. Eventually, my arm muscles are going to get tired. And if I keep trying to do the bicep curls, I'm going to hurt myself. So when you have reached the natural conclusion of the energy you have to be awake, don't struggle. Let yourself slip back into the somnambulistic state for a little bit. It'll happen whether you intend it to or not, because that's the way it works. And then notice again when you come back out of it. What you want is to create longer and longer times of awakeness. Eventually, you will get to the point where you can maintain that awakeness throughout your day, while still slipping into using your mechanical self whenever necessary. So you're driving a car, the mechanical self wants to drive the car. Let the mechanical self drive the car. it knows how to drive better than you do, and its reactions are faster. You need to figure out what to wear to the party tonight. That's a job for your mechanical self. Because that's an ego thing. Your mechanical self has a purpose, and you need to use it for that purpose while putting the primacy on the awake state. And one day your mechanical self will disappear. It's called death. Seriously.
Yep. So in the
Sufis know
meantime,
that when you experience fana, it can be translated as annihilation. That is when your mechanical self, somebody hits the reset button on it, and it powers down, and everything that has been stored in memory is wiped out. And then God gives you a new program. You cannot exist in this world without nafs. If your nafs disappeared right now, a couple of things would happen. You would stop breathing, because breathing tends to happen unconsciously. You could breathe with intention, but there is no intention. Your food would not digest. Your heart doesn't know what to do. Every mechanical aspect of your physical self is controlled by your nafs. This is why we say the nafs is of the body. And when you die, your body dies, your nafs die. And then whatever persists is what you've created. Does that make sense? So now you have an outline for how to cultivate the awake state. There's a lot more to it, but this is a place where you can start. And you can create your own practice following this template. You don't have to do it exactly the way we do it. I mean, we do it the coolest possible way, but you don't have to do it the coolest possible way.
we have the best way.
Yeah, that's right. We have the best way. And for 1995, you can have the best way too. Seriously. Everybody's a little bit different. You've heard that today because people have different experiences.
Mhm.
Respect your experience, because your experience is going to be more valid for you than my experience is.
Yeah, and I like how James has said in chat, so do all this work without a sense of drama and or guilt. You can do the work without a story attached to it. And sometimes that's the greatest challenge in all this, right?
Yeah.
Because we could create a story out of, let's say, Mushtaq and I, in some ways, we operate very differently.
No, say it ain't so.
Well, I point that out to say we could, either of us, both of us, create a story about how, oh, that means that I'm less than because I operate differently, or I'm better than because I operate differently. But the fact is, everybody has to put the work in, and it's going to be work that is perhaps on a similar trajectory with parallel intentions and everything, but it is going to look a little bit different, and no one can do it for you.
And that is the ultimate thing. Nobody can do it for you.
That sounds like the autonomy that you've talked about.
Yeah. It should sound like it because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to tell you that you can only find your way to the truth through us. Again, 1995, but it would be a lie.
It's in our best interest and yours to make sure that you understand that no one can do this for you, that there is a general way that we can all support each other in the work, that it is, again, there are similar steps, but it is up to each of us to determine exactly how we have to shape our own practice. To get where we want to go.
Without lying to yourself about it.
That's the tough part,
Yeah.
right? Because it's so easy. I hate to use these words because, making excuses, that's a term that kind of sounds like moralistic or judgy or whatever. But the fact is, in your own head, you're probably making regular excuses all the time why you don't want to put in the work to determine what you need to do to get where you want to go. And that's tough.
Yeah.
But it's something that we have to face, each of us.
So as I was saying earlier, there are specific physical exercises that you can do that will deepen this state. And I can't teach them to you over Zoom. However, as it happens, we have set a time and a place for this year's in-person retreat. And this is going to be the focus of the retreat to a great extent. The retreat is going to be in Rishikesh, which is one of the most beautiful parts of India, in September for 7 days. We picked that place because India's economy is such that for most people, it's cheaper there than in Europe. And it's going to be tons of fun. Very different from our last retreat, but tons of fun. And we will have more news about that as time goes by. But just something for you to think about your calendar. First week in September, if you can make that free, come to India, hang out.
Yeah, a little bit of a teaser.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, and the place where we're staying does all of the cooking. And the food looks amazing. I love Indian food anyway, but this looks like amazing Indian food. So there's all that. Time for questions and answers for a little bit before we close this down for the day.
Lawrence, did you have something that you wanted to ask or share about?
Well, it's just been, I'll just take a moment first to say thank you while I'm trying to draw up something else. But it's really delightful. There was one point where there was the moment where we were talking about running into the tension and being filled with the sense of just wanting to be away from the tension, right? And I had a friend, because I've been going through a lot of self-analysis and all of that, very focused on the problems and why the shame or whatever else, right? Like that. And I'd been spending a lot of time on that. And I was talking with a friend about it. And he laughed and said, I don't want to sound derogatory. He said, but I keep getting the image of a dung beetle, which you just get so, you know, you've spent so much really good conscientious time pulling all this information together. You just hanging with it. And um, he said something, he's sometime just shortly after that, he sent me something that it was about, it was sort of like not identifying with the pain, that kind of direction, but it was a reframe by, you know, saying, you know, all of this stuff is a gift. Each one of these pains is a gift for your refinement to, you're doing it for everybody. And there's something that comes from this which you'll be able to pass on. And it was, I don't know how it was, but it was a reframe that made it look different rather than just something, you know, me being persecuted or me be whatever it is, or me being, you know, deservedly persecuted, perhaps. But it was, you know, whatever that was. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that it's delightful being with people, sharing with each other in an open-handed way about this work. It's really lovely. Thank you.
That means a lot, Lawrence. Thank you.
Yeah, Lawrence, thanks. That's strong stuff, man.
Nancy, how about you?
Oh, a couple of things. One of them is, on the one hand, you focus on the body, and on the other hand, the body is a natural home for mechanical behavior. You need some of that. So I'm not sure what the relationship is.
Everything in balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the relationship. Yes, you need mechanical behavior. You cannot exist on this planet without it.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have to run your life, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you find the balance. And you can be awake while your body does mechanical things. You can be awake while driving your car. You can be awake while running. You can be awake while walking. Walking and running are also part of one's mechanical nature. But we can learn to operate in an awake state in such a way that it does not interrupt the important parts of the mechanism.
Okay. The other thing was just it occurred to me that a lot of the time, in a sense, I'm trying to take charge of myself and mostly failing, and that the part that's trying to take charge may be no more awake than anything else.
I understand that. I've had that experience myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one way that I've worked, you know, as a stepping stone in working through that is telling that part of me, I've got this. You don't have to take charge of this right now.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy.
I mean, I'm getting quite old. I'm about 74 now. And my memory slips. And I can't recall things. And I've gotten to where I have a little practice of gratefulness. When I turn my head, okay, I can't do anything. You start walking away, and it comes all back, you know, and go poop. Just, it's great. It's like there's, you know, things are being taken care of.
Yeah. And getting old is a practice in and of itself. And it's a practice that is not for wimps. Who have we not heard from?
Wael, Yusuf,
Yeah. Wael has been very quiet.
Jan.
I've
Yeah,
been
Wael.
really, I've been really listening. I was listening very carefully to Omar, to Lawrence, to everybody really that's Munib, to everybody that really engaged in this topic today. And right from the start, I was trying to put myself in a state of awakeness with attention, and presence. And there were times where I slipped and then I came back. But it just, for me, what's very clearly come up is how significant this particular practice is for all of us, no matter where we are on the path. See, one of the things I think many of us are led to believe that you do the basics and that's it, and then there's the advance, and then there's the advance, and then the advance of the advance of the advance, and so on. But what I'm feeling right now is we're all equal in being awake, and I'm reminded of a verse in the Quran, which many will know, of in the Fatiha, when it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. And it's speaking about grant us the path. And it doesn't talk about a plural path. And I always get the feeling that it really doesn't matter whether you're ahead of me or behind me, so long as we're on that path, so long as, for me, what I get is, so long as we're awake, whether you spent more time awake or whether you spent less time awake, we're awake. And that's genuinely a blessing. And when Lauren said something on a similar line with a blessing, I was reminded of that. So thank you for reminding me of that. That's what came up.
I love that. I'm gonna try to drink that in and hold on to that. Thank you, Wael.
Who else has something to say? Yusuf, what are your thoughts?
It's great to be here, also alive. Nothing to add. I mean, I enjoyed it very much, and I'm digesting it at the moment. Thank you.
Well, it is great to have you. We were actually thinking about you the other day. We ordered food from our favorite Turkish restaurant, and we were thinking, what's Yusuf up to?
Yeah, as I said, it is 4:30. Your usual talk is at 4:30 in local time, so
Yeah,
it was difficult. But yeah, I will try to
yeah,
join.
we understand
also.
when you can't make it, because I would have trouble making 4:30 sometimes, but we do miss you.
Yeah, it means a lot for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts you want to share? No pressure, but I'm just offering.
Oh yeah,
you
there's all the
opportunity.
pressure, man. Don't believe her.
Okay,
She's
I'm
gonna put
trying
the-
to reform my pressuring ways to some extent, just a little bit. Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you need to unmute yourself? I can do it if you want.
Unmute. I'm on.
You're
Yes.
on.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been following you on YouTube, and today I wanted to be live. That was very good. Yes, it's very inspiring. We're a very small group without a teacher in Copenhagen, and it means a lot to me. So I will. Is it easy to see where to get in contact with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much in all of our video descriptions, we have some contact.
Yeah, you can
info.
find our
Yeah.
email. Are you a member of our Facebook group?
Yes.
Ah, then you can contact us through that too.
Yeah,
Yes, I will do that.
great.
And I just put India in in the calendar. Yeah.
Exciting.
Good.
Yay.
Yeah.
And we are happy to have another person from Scandinavia in our group because you may or may not know that our last in-person retreat was in Sweden.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
Yeah, and Nora got a chance to party down in Denmark afterwards.
I did. It was
Yeah.
beautiful there.
Yeah, her first time in Europe, and she gets to be in some of the most beautiful places there.
Yeah, it was hard to come home. I was like, what a letdown, huh? But it was a privilege. Thank you so much for being here today, Jan.
Thank you.
Anissa, what do you think? Are we crazy or what?
No, if you guys are crazy, then I'm crazy too.
Yeah, welcome
Hey,
to
I
the
like
club.
that. Yeah.
But I guess the only thing that I'm gonna mention that you guys mentioned earlier is that I really find it hard to keep that awareness without indulging my mechanical self, if that makes sense.
Oh,
It
yeah,
does,
it
yeah.
totally makes sense. That's why it's called practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as James was saying, don't make yourself feel guilty about that. Just return and keep returning.
Yeah. If you have one moment of true awakeness, you're doing better than 99.9% of all of the people on the planet.
Yeah. And I think it was Ibrahim and we were talking about getting the reps in. That's another way I like to phrase it. Yeah. That's all it's about, really. I mean, ultimately, it's about more than that, but everyday practice, the way that we encourage ourselves is just to remember it's about returning to the practice, engaging, continuing to stay connected to our intention as much as we can, while understanding that intentionally or unintentionally, as Mushtaq was saying, we are going to slip away from it. That's okay. It gives us the opportunity to deepen the work. Without the bad, how can we recognize the good, as they say?
I think we've heard from everybody at least once now.
It's been so good to spend time with all of you for us this morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully all of you are doing well, and if it's early for you, go get a little bit more rest perhaps. And we look forward to seeing you this evening. James, yeah.
I just want to express my gratitude. This has been a great way to start the day. It's still the wee small hours of the morning for me, but that's actually worked really well. Yeah, I just had to put my hand up for that. Thank you. That's
our pleasure. All right, then with no further ado, I'm going to flip us over to Brady Bunch mode. Voila, smiling faces.
Yay.
So do the thing, Noor.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, whether you're here live or watching on the replay. It's been so good to have you here and spend this time together learning. And as I like to have us do, we can wave to each other, wave to everybody watching on the replay, and perhaps we'll see you again this evening.
Oh, and
Take
this
a-
evening it's
Oh God, he's not
going
gonna
to
let
be
me do
very,
that.
very exciting. Noor has decided that she is going to tell us about one of the great Sufi saints that does not get enough play. She's going to talk about Rabia of Basra.
Yep,
And
Saint Rabia of Basra.
yeah. And we need more Sufi saints that are women. So
Yeah. So that will be an important topic for me, and I hope you guys might join us in talking about her.
yes.
All right. See you soon.
Take care.
Bye.